I kind of feel like movie franchises are dying. Now, sometimes these deaths are completely warranted. I can't watch Bruce Willis phone in another Die Hard, and if this new James Cameron Terminator trilogy in the works doesn't blow me away, I might just cry. While many franchises seem to be coming to a close though, just as many are being rebooted. Now, reboots are fascinating because they can occur for two reasons. One is to recreate and improve upon an idea way ahead of its time, and it can truly be a monolithic achievement. Or it can be the other more likely reason, which is to make lots and lots of money on an already popular intellectual property. Now, the latter is unfortunate because it leads to a lot of terrible movies and sequels to those terrible movies because they made bank. Now, that terribleness can occur for multiple reasons. The least likely is due to lack of funding. It's not very often that a movie fails and people think, man, if they'd put a bigger budget behind this, it would have been a lot better. Studios already throw mountains of money at these movies because they expect massive returns on their investment. And they usually get them, though that's no surprise given audiences' eagerness to reclaim nostalgia. Instead, I want to focus on two reasons that I believe have led to the downpour of awful big budget filmmaking. The first is that a lot of these franchises are being handed to incredibly inexperienced directors. Now, this is a trend that has been continuous over the last few years, and while I can't exactly pinpoint what started it, a big example of this type of failure was with Josh Trank's handling of the 2015 reboot of the Fantastic Four. His inexperience shined bright in that film, and for its critical and commercial failure, he was rightfully removed from an unannounced Lucasfilm project. But even after that disaster, we've seen numerous similar situations. Like Trank, Jordan Vogt-Roberts was handed the massive Kong franchise after just one feature film. But his situation was in a way even stranger. Trank at least had experience in the superhero genre with Chronicle before moving to Fantastic Four, but Vogt-Roberts was transitioning from a moving indie drom-com, The Kings of Summer, to a massive action-heavy monster blockbuster with Kong Skull Island, which, let's be fair, is another polarizing film. But where I think this example shines brightest is with the one and only Colin Trevorrow, who, for whatever reason, won some kind of film lover's lottery. Because after his lone directing gig of the wildly overrated indie sci-fi rom-com Safety Not Guaranteed, was handed one of the largest film franchises of all time, Jurassic Park, for a sequel with Jurassic World. And what we got was what no fan of the franchise wanted, this cookie-cutter, utterly forgettable mound of garbage that made $1 billion because of course it did. Even if that movie was somehow worse, it wouldn't have affected its box office intake in the least. What was really alarming though was, despite its negative critical reaction, that box office intake was enough to convince Disney and Lucasfilm to hand him an even larger franchise in Star Wars, where he received directing duties for Episode 9. All of this transitions into my second reason for bad modern blockbusters, which is a lack of ingenuity. Now, this is something that I hadn't really considered until a few weeks ago when one of my most anticipated films completely imploded. With just weeks left of production, the masterful directors Phil Lord and Chris Miller were fired from the upcoming Han Solo spin-off prequel. Now, I may be in the minority on this one, but I was far more excited for a new Lord and Miller film than a Han Solo film. In fact, when it was announced, I remember hearing all the grumblings about why do we need a Han Solo film, and thoughts that this could potentially ruin the Star Wars franchise. And it wasn't until their arrival to the movie and the subsequent exciting cast additions that word about the movie began to turn around, and for good reason. Lord and Miller have a great reputation for turning dreadful ideas into spectacular films. From odd 80s television adaptations like 21 Jump Street and its sequel, to potentially giant product placement explosions of the Lego Movie, to entire books once thought inadaptable like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. They've proven themselves experts in their craft, all while delivering on what the big studios they were working with expected from them. So what went wrong on the Han Solo movie? It turns out that Kathleen Kennedy and co. decided that their visions for the character weren't aligning with the director's visions, which would be fine. It's their character, their IP. They're free to do with it whatever they please. But when you're working with two of the most creative minds that are known for their improv comedy, I wonder what were they really expecting? That's like being shocked that a Tarantino movie is violent or that a Fincher movie is mechanical. And what it really boils down to is that the studio heads want power, and they want a director who contributes to their vision without delivering something that they might actually have passion in. And that's why they get these young, inexperienced directors like Trevorrow, because they think that they can manipulate them into making the exact film that they want without giving the movie any kind of flourish that'll make it interesting. This is kind of in the same way that people had a problem with The Force Awakens being pretty much a clone of A New Hope. Because of that, fans were really hoping that these spin-off anthology stories would be something original for the 40-year-old franchise. But instead, it looks like something that could start to get bogged down by an abundance of similar films in the franchise. And nobody wants to get bored of Star Wars. That would really suck. So the question is, how do we solve this problem? Well, in a way, we're headed in the right direction, or at least certain studios are. Some studios are working with directors that have proven themselves and that have worked gradually to bigger projects and giving them opportunities that align with their past work. One example of this is James Gunn, who was given a superhero franchise full of weirdos that more or less aligned with the zany nature of movies he cut his teeth on in his preceding decade of work. Another is Ryan Coogler, who showed that he could transition from the indie scene of Fruitvale Station to the mid to high budget film scene with Creed before getting his upcoming chance at the truly big time with Black Panther. The other way to help the situation, which I would argue is possibly the most important, is for directors to stand up for themselves and what they believe in. While I'm saddened we're not getting the Lord and Miller movie we were expecting next year, I'm also happy we're not getting something that they weren't entirely passionate about. The same can be said about Edgar Wright with Ant-Man, Patty Jenkins with Thor, and everyone else who cites creative differences as a reason for departing a movie. If this is something that continues, as well as the string of negative critical reaction to these movies, because I have to hope deep down that money isn't the only thing these producers care about, maybe we will come to a time where there's a place in the middle everyone can meet that combines the creativity of a director's individuality and the lore of franchises fans have loved that will make everybody happy.
Part of the creative process, especially in something like filmmaking, which is a big group effort, having somebody by your side who's challenging your ideas while frustrating, no offense, is really valuable, because it means that your best stuff gets through and your mediocre stuff gets challenged. And so in that conversation about, gosh, why don't you like this? This is why I like that. We usually arrive at a third, even better option.